The incessant sound of my footsteps echoed through the dimly lit corridors as I made my way down the deserted hospital wing. The night shift always had an eerie ambience, but tonight there was an added tension in the air. I could feel it in the way the hairs on the back of my neck stood on end, and the whispers of unseen horrors seemed to dance on the edge of my hearing. As a nurse, I had grown accustomed to the unusual sights and sounds of the hospital at night. But something about tonight was different. The silence was oppressive, as if the building itself held its breath, waiting for something sinister to happen. I pushed the unsettling thoughts aside and focused on my duty, to care for the patients in need. I approached room 307, where a terminally ill patient named Mr. Harrington resided. He had been unresponsive for days, but it was still my responsibility to monitor him. As I entered the room, a chill ran down my spine and I shuddered involuntarily. The atmosphere inside was thick with an otherworldly presence, and the faint smell of decay lingered in the air. I walked toward Mr. Harrington's bed, the overhead light flickering ominously. The shadows danced, taunting my peripheral vision, and I could have sworn I saw fleeting figures darting around the room. A wave of unease washed over me, but I couldn't afford to be paralyzed by fear. I needed to do my job. I reached for the stethoscope hanging around my neck and placed it against Mr. Harrington's chest. To my astonishment, I heard a faint, raspy voice whispering in my ear. "Help me," it pleaded, barely audible. My heart pounded in my chest as I looked around the room, searching for the source of the voice, but there was no one else present. Struggling to regain my composure, I continued my examination. Suddenly, the heart monitor's rhythmic beeping turned into an erratic cacophony, piercing the silence. The sound grew louder and louder, each beat more urgent than the last. Panic began to creep into my mind as I realized something was terribly wrong. I turned to leave the room, but the door slammed shut before me, trapping me inside with the growing madness. Shadows twisted and contorted, taking on grotesque forms along the walls. The lights overhead flickered with an intensity that matched my rapidly beating heart. My pulse pounded in my ears as fear gripped me, turning my limbs to jelly. The air thickened with an indescribable energy, making it difficult to breathe. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of a figure standing by the window. Its features were obscured by darkness, but its presence exuded malevolence. A chill wind blew through the room, extinguishing the flickering lights and leaving me in total darkness. Panic consumed me as the figure slowly approached, its footsteps echoing with a haunting rhythm. I tried to scream, but no sound escaped my lips. I felt an icy hand grip my shoulder, sending a surge of paralyzing terror through my veins. My mind raced, desperately searching for a way out. Then, with a sudden surge of adrenaline, I broke free from the grip and bolted toward the door. The figure pursued me, its footfalls closing in behind me, each step a macabre symphony. Gasping for breath, I stumbled into the maze-like hallway and fumbled for my phone. I dialed for help, but the call wouldn't connect. Panic surged through me as I realized I was trapped in a nightmare, isolated from the outside world. I ran through the twisting corridors, each turn leading me deeper into the heart of the hospital's malevolent grip. Doors slammed shut, corridors shifted, and the walls seemed to close in around me. Desperation consumed me as I felt my sanity slip away. Finally, I burst through the exit doors, gasping for fresh air. The moonlight bathed the hospital grounds in an ethereal glow, offering a glimmer of respite. I looked back at the hospital, its windows staring at me like soulless eyes. As I stood there, trembling and disoriented, a chill breeze whispered a haunting refrain in my ear. "You can never escape. We are always watching." To this day, I bear the scars, both seen and unseen, of that fateful night. The hospital remains a place of darkness, its secrets forever etched into my nightmares. And as a nurse, I carry the burden of knowing that sometimes, even within the halls of healing, evil lurks, waiting for those who dare to uncover its malevolent truth.
I woke up in a cold sweat, my heart pounding in my chest. The room was pitch black, and I couldn't see a thing. Confusion and fear engulfed me as I realized I had no recollection of how I ended up in this unfamiliar place. The last thing I remembered was driving home after a long day at work. Struggling to calm my racing mind, I reached for the bedside lamp, only to find it wasn't there. Panic rose within me as I fumbled for the light switch, but the room remained shrouded in darkness. I called out for help, my voice echoing through the seemingly empty space, but there was no response. Feeling my way along the wall, I stumbled toward what I hoped was the door. The air felt stale, and an eerie silence hung in the atmosphere. Every step I took was met with an unsettling creaking sound from the floor beneath me, as if the very foundation of the building was conspiring against me. Finally, my hands made contact with the doorknob, and I twisted it, praying for an escape from the suffocating darkness. The door swung open, revealing a dimly lit hallway. The flickering fluorescent lights created eerie shadows that danced along the walls, distorting their shapes into grotesque forms. With trepidation, I ventured out into the corridor, each step echoing in the silence. The hospital felt abandoned, frozen in time. The air grew colder with every passing moment, chilling me to the bone. The oppressive atmosphere weighed heavily on my shoulders, intensifying my anxiety. As I navigated the labyrinthine halls, a distant sound reached my ears, a soft whimpering. Intrigued and concerned, I followed the sound, hoping to find another living soul. It led me to a small waiting area, where I discovered a child huddled in a corner, her tear-streaked face hidden in her hands. "Hey, are you okay?" I approached cautiously, my voice laced with compassion. The girl looked up, her eyes wide with fear. She opened her mouth to speak, but all that escaped her trembling lips was an agonizing moan. Before I could offer any further assistance, a chilling gust of wind blew through the hallway, extinguishing the already dim lights. Darkness consumed the area, leaving us in a world of shadows and uncertainty. Panic surged through me, and I reached out for the girl, desperate to find solace in the presence of another human being. But she was gone. Confusion overwhelmed me. How could she disappear so suddenly? Had she been nothing more than a figment of my imagination? The questions gnawed at my sanity as I stood alone in the desolate hallway. Determined to find answers, I pressed forward. The flickering lights illuminated the way, casting eerie shadows that seemed to writhe and twist on the walls. The air grew heavier, laden with an unseen presence that sent shivers down my spine. The corridor led me to a set of double doors, which swung open with a haunting creak. I stepped into a vast, dimly lit room. Rows of empty hospital beds stretched into the distance, each one draped in white sheets, as if waiting for their occupants to return. My eyes were drawn to a flickering light at the far end of the room. Intrigued yet apprehensive, I made my way toward it. As I approached, I saw a figure hunched over a desk, scribbling frantically on a sheet of paper. "Excuse me, can you tell me where I am?" I called out, my voice trembling. The figure turned slowly, revealing a pale face etched with deep lines of despair. Its eyes were empty, devoid of any spark of life. The mouth opened, but instead of words, an incomprehensible whisper escaped its lips. A sense of dread washed over me as I realized that I had stumbled upon something otherworldly, a presence that defied rational explanation. I backed away slowly, but the figure lurched forward, its movements jerky and unnatural. Terrified, I turned and ran, desperate to escape the nightmarish encounter. The hallways seemed to stretch endlessly, warping and distorting as if to prolong my torment. The echoes of my footsteps chased me, magnifying the feeling of being pursued. Finally, I burst through a set of doors and found myself outside. The cool night air filled my lungs, offering a fleeting respite from the horrors within. As I looked back at the hospital, I could swear I saw shadows shifting in the windows, as if the building itself was alive with a sinister presence. I stumbled away from the hospital, my mind racing with unanswered questions. What had happened within those walls? What unseen forces had I encountered? The experience had left an indelible mark on my psyche, a chilling reminder that sometimes the darkest secrets are hidden in the places we least expect. To this day, I still bear the scars of that overnight stay in the hospital. The inexplicable events continue to haunt my dreams, a constant reminder of the thin veil that separates our world from the realm of the unknown. And as I lie awake at night, I can't help but wonder if the hospital still holds its dark secrets, patiently waiting for its next victim.